Hey United fans, welcome back to United Focus, your home for all the latest updates and passionate breakdowns of everything happening with Manchester United. Today we have got some absolutely massive Manchester United transfer news, and every single story matters enormously for what this club looks like next season in the Champions League. We are talking about Aurelien Tchouameni and the training ground altercation with Federico Valverde that could be the one reason he leaves Real Madrid for Old Trafford this summer. We are talking about the £140 million midfield budget broken down into 3 specific allocations, and why the plan is more detailed and more structured than anything previously reported. And more. Let us get into every single story right now. Start with the Tchouameni development, because this is the story that has moved furthest and fastest this week, and the specific circumstances that have created the opening are genuinely extraordinary. Ben Jacobs confirmed that Manchester United have officially contacted Aurelien Tchouameni's representatives to discuss a possible move. That is not background monitoring. That is not scouting reports being commissioned or transfer intelligence being gathered. That is direct and formal contact between United and the players' camp about a potential summer transfer. In transfer language, that is the equivalent of breaking cover, of moving from private interest to public pursuit, and it signals that United believe the conditions for a deal are achievable rather than merely aspirational. The specific catalyst that has transformed a complicated and uncertain situation into something considerably more accessible is the training ground altercation between Tchouameni and Federico Valverde that was reported by The Athletic this week as part of a broader picture of rising tensions at Real Madrid's Valdebebas facility. Antonio Rudiger was involved in a separate heated argument with another first-team player, and multiple flashpoints are described as having emerged in the build-up to El Clasico. The atmosphere at Real Madrid's training ground is described as fractious and difficult, and in that context, Tchouameni's specific dispute with Valverde has taken on a significance that goes beyond a simple training ground disagreement between competitive athletes. Fabrizio Romano explained the Tchouameni situation directly this week, identifying the one reason he would leave Real Madrid for Old Trafford. Real Madrid may now be more open to selling the 26-year-old for a fee in the region of £70 to £80 million, representing a more accessible price point than the €90 million that had previously been discussed, and the training ground situation has accelerated internal conversations at the club about which players can be moved on this summer as Madrid prepare their own significant squad reconstruction. If Rodri arrives from City, as has been widely reported, Tchouameni's position in the midfield hierarchy becomes even more complicated, and the combination of squad politics, the Valverde situation, and United's concrete formal approach creates a scenario where a departure could materialise at a price and at a timeline that works for all parties. Tchouameni at 26, with 8 major honours won at Real Madrid and 44 France caps, brings everything that United's midfield rebuild requires in the premium category. Champions League winning experience, technical quality at the highest level, physical authority in the defensive midfield role, the specific profile that makes him the ideal partner for Kobbie Mainoo in a double pivot where Tchouameni protects space and controls tempo while Mainoo drives forward and creates. Getting him to Old Trafford for £70 to £80 million would be one of the most significant and most impactful signings United have made in years. Elsewhere, the £140 million midfield budget is the most specific and most detailed financial information to emerge about United's summer planning. Yet, and the Daily Mail's breakdown of how those funds are allocated tells you exactly how Carrick and the recruitment team have structured their thinking. £80 million for the primary Casemiro replacement, the central and most important signing of the entire summer. £40 million for a midfielder to replace Ugarte, addressing the secondary pivot position with a player who fits the specific profile of what Ugarte failed to deliver. And £20 million for a third midfielder, potentially a younger option, a free transfer, or a value signing that provides depth and competition without requiring premium investment. 3 midfielders, £140 million. Mainoo already signed until 2031 as the foundation. That is a midfield rebuild of genuine ambition and genuine scale, the kind that transforms a squad's identity rather than simply patching its most obvious weaknesses. The primary £80 million target is most naturally Tchouameni, given the formal contact that has been made. But Sandro Tonali remains a genuine and serious alternative, with Nottingham Forest's Europa League semi-final exit to Aston Villa, potentially having a positive effect on United's pursuit. Forest, staying in the Premier League, has maintained their £120 million asking price for Elliot Anderson, which United have indicated they are not willing to meet. But Tonali at Newcastle operates under different ownership circumstances and different financial pressures. The £40 million secondary target profile maps onto names like Mateus Fernandes, Carlos Baleba, or potentially Ederson from Atalanta, each bringing different qualities but each fitting the financial and positional requirements of that specific budget allocation. The Mateus Fernandes situation is moving more quickly and more concretely than most people outside the United camp had appreciated, with Ben Jacobs confirming that the club has been in talks with Fernandes representatives for 4 to 6 weeks. The player is open to the move, which removes the most fundamental obstacle that any transfer negotiation faces, and the specific conversation has been ongoing since well before the end of the season, rather than being a post-qualification reactive approach. West Ham's league position is the key variable. If the Hammers are relegated, a deal becomes significantly more straightforward because a player of Fernandes' profile and ambition will seek Champions League football if it is available, and United are now confirmed participants in that competition. If West Ham survive, the club's determination to keep him combined with the premium United would need to pay creates a more difficult equation, though Jacobs acknowledged even survival does not make a deal impossible, just considerably harder. Bruno Fernandes' personal recommendation remains the most compelling element of this specific pursuit. A senior international player vouching for a younger compatriot to his club's recruitment team is not just scouting intelligence. It is character validation, chemistry endorsement, and an implicit commitment from the recommending player to help the new arrival settle and develop. The same language and the same culture, the mentor-mentee dynamic that is already established through their Portugal relationship, makes Mateus' integration into a United dressing room that Bruno effectively leads significantly smoother than a cold recruitment of an unknown foreign player. The centre-back priority is the most urgent and the most practically justified of United's summer defensive planning. And Football Insiders report that the club is specifically targeting someone with a strong fitness and injury-free record is the most honest and self-aware piece of recruitment criteria United have publicly expressed in years. Matthijs de Ligt has spent more time on the treatment table than the pitch since arriving at the club. Lisandro Martinez has missed extended periods with multiple injuries this season alone. In other news, Harry Maguire, for all his quality under Carrick, has also had his own fitness interruptions. The defensive injury crisis that stripped United of multiple centre-back options simultaneously in the most critical period of the season, forcing teenagers into partnership roles against Chelsea and at Old Trafford against the biggest opponents, exposed a vulnerability that cannot simply be managed with better luck next season. It must be addressed structurally with a player whose physical resilience is as important a qualification as his tactical ability. Christian Romero of Tottenham fits several elements of that profile. His availability dependent on whether Spurs survive relegation, but his quality and his Champions League ambition making him a compelling target at the right price. Goncalo Inacio of Sporting CP with his negotiable £52 million release clause remains an attractive option, and the broader market for centre-backs in Europe will be assessed this summer with the specific filter of injury history applied as a primary criterion rather than an afterthought. The boardroom change at Manchester United is a significant piece of institutional news that has passed relatively quietly amid the noise of the transfer planning, but which reflects the ongoing evolution of the club's governance structure under Ineos ownership. Sir Dave Brailsford's formal departure from the board of directors has been confirmed, with his termination dated April the 30th and registered at Companies House. Brailsford arrived alongside Sir Jim Ratcliffe as part of the original Ineos acquisition and was credited with several significant contributions, including the £50 million revamp of Carrington's training facilities and his influence in appointing Dan Ashworth as sporting director, an appointment that proved extremely short-lived, but which reflected Brailsford's specific vision for how elite sports organisations should structure their performance departments. Rob Nevin has been formally appointed as a director effective from May the 5th, entrenching a role that already existed through his position on the parent company's board, and bringing the formal governance structure into alignment with the operational reality that has been in place for some time. These boardroom changes do not change the day-to-day football operations, but they reflect the ongoing process of settling the governance structure that a major ownership transition always requires. And the confirmation of Nevin's formal directorship alongside Brailsford's departure closes one chapter in the Ineos reconstruction of Old Trafford's institutional framework. The full picture as United approach the end of this extraordinary season is one of a football club that has been genuinely and fundamentally transformed since January and that now enters its most important summer in years from a position of genuine strength and genuine ambition. Champions League football confirmed. Kobbie Mainoo signed to 2031. Casemiro's replacement being pursued at the highest level with Tchouameni formally approached. £140 million allocated to midfield transformation. Mateus Fernandes in discussions for 4 to 6 weeks. Centre-back recruitment identified as a structural priority. Bruno Fernandes on the verge of a contract extension. Carrick as the clear permanent manager favourite. The Hodgland £38 million incoming from Napoli. Sancho's wages saved. The full financial platform of Champions League participation arriving to amplify everything. This is what the quiet revolution has been building towards. Not just Champions League qualification, not just a better league position, but the foundation of a club that is genuinely planning to compete at the highest level next season and every season after that with the right manager, the right recruitment, the right investment, and the right culture that Carrick has been establishing since the day he walked back through the Carrington doors in January. The summer starts now. The £140 million is ready. Tchouameni's representatives have been called. Fernandes is in discussions. The centre-back search is underway. And the most exciting transfer window in Manchester United's post-Ferguson era is about to begin. Get ready, because what comes next is genuinely extraordinary.